Let's talk about the moments after the moment. You know, when you reply to a conversation in your head and you think, I knew better than that. I shouldn't have snapped. I shouldn't have shut down. Maybe should have not sent that message.
And it's frustrating because deep down, like we do know better when you're reflecting. Most of us listening or tuning in right now have done some work towards emotional regulation and internal noticing the triggers that we have, or how do we operate best? How can we communicate, handle conflict? So we're thoughtful, we're aware of certain things. We care and we want to lead more intentionally, but stress does not ask for permission when it is bubbling over. It shows up fast, it can show up loud, and right when the stakes feel the highest is when it usually boils over. And so today we're going to talk about emotional regulation, that moment after the moment. So you've had the blow up, and now we want to, one, rectify any issues that we did, but then regulate so that we're not necessarily staying calm at all costs, because that's unrealistic. These emotions are normal, but we want to lead without letting stress run the show. So we want to be able to regulate ourselves to feel the overwhelm, to feel the stress, and then work through it and not let it control us.
Yeah, stress sucks.
And that's the episode. That's stress.
So before we get into it, make sure that you hit subscribe and follow so that you do not miss any future episodes. And as always, all of that information is going to be in our show notes. This is something so many leaders quietly struggle with. They'll say, I'm emotionally aware, so why do I react like this? And the answer isn't that you lack self-awareness, is that awareness and regulation are two different skills. You can understand your emotions after the fact and then just get hijacked in the moment. That's not weakness. That's normal. That's part of human nature, human, emotions. We get stressed, but there are going to be times we have to figure out how to regulate that emotion and combine the self-awareness and the regulation.
I think those two go hand in hand, but it does start with awareness, which we've talked about before, like just how to be aware and like get out of your own headspace and see what's going on, looking through a different lens to better understand and ask questions. And then the after effect is, okay, now that I'm aware, what do I do? That's the moment after the moment, like we kind of hinted at already. Now that we're aware of the situation, how can we regulate? Well, one, or even before that, do we like the way that we are? Are we completely happy with how we speak to people, how we interact with people, how we handle stress? If you're happy with it, that means you're already regulating, and you might need to just fine tune or maintain. But if not, then we have to learn that skill of how to regulate our emotions. And that is a hard skill to learn, especially as an adult. And I'm going to call some of us millennials out, but I think I mentioned it before, but when we had big emotions, we were sent away. We were not taught through them. We were not taught understanding and what these mean and how to handle it. We were told to go outside, go to our room, go away. And when that emotion is over, however you chose to get rid of it, you could come back. And so, if anything, we learned how to suppress it so that we just stayed calm all the time and then wonder why we're burnt out or overwhelmed by tiny little things because we didn't learn how to regulate. So, when stress hits, what's happening is your nervous system is shifting into protection mode. Decision making is narrowing, your patience is dropping because suddenly everything feels urgent and everything feels personal. And that's when entrepreneurs overreact, or really people in general. We avoid hard conversations or spiral into worst case scenario thinking. And that distracts you from being the leader that you know you are capable of being.
Yeah, no, I totally believe that because I know I've learned over the years, but being stressed and overwhelmed, not knowing what to do in that situation, like as an entrepreneur, we're faced with so many obstacles in our journey. And I had to learn that I'm the one making the decisions. Somebody else is not making the decisions for me, because oftentimes when we come from like a corporate place, somebody's telling you what to do. Like, can we redo this? Or, hey, this needs to be done a certain way. Let's go back and revise this. And in my mind, now I'm stressed and overwhelmed because I think that I just did a bad thing. In reality, I did not do a bad thing. Just the expectations were not clearly said. I know I'm doing a really good job. I know I'm great at what I do. But when somebody gives you that feedback, you're like, oh no, what did I do wrong? And that's when now, as time goes on, as I'm getting older and going through the journey of being an entrepreneur, I'm not putting that pressure on myself anymore. I'm like, okay, let me step back and see like what exactly is going on. And that has helped me regulate my emotions and the stress and the overwhelm. And then when I receive feedback, then I give feedback back and say, hey, okay, like I understand that you're saying this. So this is how I'm perceiving this. Is this what you're saying? So just kind of clarifying so that you don't spiral out of control.
Yes, because that unregulated stress is going to leak through in so many different areas of your life. It could be rush decisions that then later on reflecting, be like, man, that was a terrible idea. Like, that's not even a learning lesson other than I should have took time to think about what I was doing.
Yeah.
But it can show through your body language or just your body, like overall health in general. I know, like my sister, when she has stress, but it's subconscious, it starts to show in her jaw, like she'll tense her
Mhm.
jaw. And so
Yeah.
that's her physical cue. Something is causing me stress and overwhelm, and I need to figure out what it is. It could be your tone. If you don't realize you have a tone, which goes back to being aware, but like your whole vibe could be throwing everyone off because of overwhelm and stress, and you got to figure out what that is. So, one thing that I would love to clear up, because I kind of mentioned on it earlier, but being calm is not the same as being regulated. Calm is often external and regulation is internal. Calm is like the facade, the mask that you wear. There are days where I'm totally like freaking out inside. I'm not regulated, but on the outside, no one has no idea. Like everyone just thinks I'm happy go lucky me doing all these amazing things when inside I'm like crying on the inside. So too often, and I have a really close friend, Beth, that used to live with me. She was like, you always look calm and you always look like you're handling everything, but silently, like I was suppressing frustration, anxiety, sometimes resentment towards different people in my life because I felt like I was communicating to the best of my ability and that just wasn't happening, or I was continuously being let down. And so I was having a hard time regulating myself, and I was just suppressing them to kind of push through, but not in a healthy way. And but on the outside, I didn't want anybody to know. It's none of their business, is how I was framing it. And those suppressed emotions do not disappear. If anything, they come out later, louder and harsher, and with a much sharper tone than if I had just handled it when I first felt it. Probably still would have been a hard, difficult conversation, but it wouldn't have been nearly as bad.
Oh no, I totally relate. Regulation means you can feel the stress without letting it drive your behavior. I know for a fact that when I'm stressed out and overwhelmed, my tone comes off. Not great, like at all. I look calm, but when I verbally start to talk, you can clearly tell that I'm stressed and don't want to be in that moment. So I've had to like figure out how to regulate that, and it's tough. It's tough to figure out how can you talk without sounding like you're rude. Like I'm just having a bad day. It's nothing to do with you.
I think that's where the communication part comes from. Just letting people know, hey, I
Yeah.
might have a tone. It's not you. I'm just stressed and I'm trying to center myself. I might need a minute or just more or less disregard for the next few minutes. I tell
Oh
my
yeah,
kids that. I'm
I've
like,
done that
I'm
too.
stressed I'm putting myself in timeout, like I tell you guys to go to timeout and like breathe and let it go.
Yeah. It's challenging, it's hard. And then going back to, your business, and if you have a team and the people that you work with, how do you show up for them? You got to stay connected to your values, even when your nervous system seems to not want to do that at all. Like, you know who you are, you know what your values are, you know why you're doing what you're doing, but having those difficult conversations, depending on who you are, like for me, like I have to verbally say things, even though my tone might be off, just to get it out, just to kind of word vomit. And sometimes I cry. That helps me regulate my nervous system. It does. Like
You got to let it out.
let it out. You hold something in, it's not going to be good for anybody, especially yourself. Don't you want to wake up in a good mood and not be stressed? I mean, of course, stress is part of life, but it's how you regulate that stress and how you figure things out. And then if you're like, I don't know what I'm doing, like maybe find a person that you trust and have a conversation with them.
I think by grounding yourself, like asking more questions, taking ownership, like you can't control what someone else does. You can still be upset by it, but you don't have to let it control you. You are only in control of how you react, how you respond, how you handle things, how you wake up and start your day, how you end your day. The questions, the ownership, that allows you to have a steadier voice, a steadier influence with your team, with your clients. And the sooner that you speak up about these things instead of hiding it like it's a mistake, because it's not, your team will flourish. If you continuously are in a dysregulated state, your team is going to go into protection mode, or they're going to go in flight mode and they're just not going to work with you anymore. And then you're going to be a team of one. And then suddenly you're dealing with all of that miscommunication, hesitation, disengagement. Like these things aren't just about self-care. It's infrastructure for your whole team, your whole department. If you're on a professional setting, like this is an infrastructure thing that needs to be implemented across the board.
Oh yeah, definitely. And if I'm working with you, I would rather you come to me and say, hey, like I'm having a bad day. If I come off this way, it's nothing to do with you. I'd rather you be open with me than not, because then now, like, that's another trickle effect. Like, if you go into the workplace or you're with your partner recording a podcast or whatever, like, there's that communication so that the other person kind of has an understanding of what they're walking into. Like, if we get on a recording for an episode and either Dana and I are like, hey, like, I need to breathe for a second before we hit record because I'm not having a good day, like, then you can take a moment and then, talk it out and then go on about your work. So having that open dialogue definitely helps.
It's definitely made a difference in like how I show up through working, like venting to other people. I've learned to pause however long I need to. I don't pause like indefinitely and never bring it back up, but I have learned to pause to like, am I just reactive, like overreacting, or is this a cycle that I'm no longer want to be going through? Like, I can't break the cycle if I don't take enough time to like back up and pause, and then internally naming, I'm feeling pressured, I'm feeling frustrated, I'm overwhelmed. Honestly, I don't have a big team. I do have a co-working space and the people there are amazing. I have Sarah in there, but sometimes I just need to get it out quickly. And so I use AI tools for that. I'm not even going to lie. It's a tool. So I have a like therapy level ChatGPT where I just go to vent, because I have paused long enough in some instances where it's just me and like I'm just annoyed, and it's not something necessarily I need to fix. It's just in the moment. Ugh. So I will voice talk, word vomit, whatever you want to call it, into this chat, and it helps me regulate. Like it walks me through. It has told me, like, this is a bit extreme. They're not meaning, like, it doesn't seem like this is what it is. That neutral third party analytics. Other times it gives me like breathing techniques that I can try to move through it and to recenter myself and regulate my body, not just my thoughts. So it walks me through that, which is funny. I know that sounds funny, but it helps, and it has helped quite a bit, actually. It's also trained. I feel like I need to say that. But if I get to a point where it's too negative, it is told, or it is given approval or whatever, to tell me that I need to speak to someone else, and ChatGPT is no longer able to help me. But like that regulation, it starts with your nervous system and using whatever tools and resources you have. If you feel like you don't have a co-working space, you haven't found a virtual community, start there and work your way up. Maybe even ask it, do some research to find them. There's so many amazing communities online that they will show up and be there with you every step of the way.
Yeah, I believe what you say, Dana, like finding the community. Yeah, it could take some time, but it's finding that the person or people to help you get through what you're going through. Leadership maturity isn't about never reacting. It's about recovering faster, repairing what you need and reducing how often stress is going to show up. This is a skill like any other skill. It's going to take time. It's going to take practice. I'm telling you, it took me maybe 6-7 years or so to figure out what self-awareness was and how to be in tune with my body, and now being in tune with my own body and figuring out the triggers and regulation. Like, it took me a while. It's something that you can always work on, and every day you're constantly working on whatever skill. Just keep at it to keep improved. The more you regulate, the more capacity you will have to lead well, especially when you're under pressure. As a leader, as a business owner, as an entrepreneur, you are going to face challenges. You're going to feel like you're under pressure. There's so many obstacles, but there's so much greatness that comes into it all as well.
I think the bigger picture, I think I've said this before, so apologies for repeating myself. I mean, recovering faster is a perk, but it's repairing when needed and able to reduce how often stress is in your life, because it's never going to go away. But if we can recover quickly because we've taken the time to learn how to regulate to the point that we can move through a stressful situation instead of letting it just send us here, there, and everywhere, and then we have to backtrack before we move forward, it strengthens with practice, and it's not as difficult maybe the 10th time or the 12th time. And those conversations that you're nervous about having don't even cause you as much panic because you've worked that skill enough that you can navigate difficult conversations, or you already are aware of potential responses so you can prep ahead of time. But the more regulated you are, the more capacity that we can handle under pressure, which means we'll see tremendous growth in the long run in our personal life and in our business. So something that I would love for our listeners tuning in to think about this week is, when stress shows up in your leadership, how does it usually come out? Because we've talked about awareness, and so let's reflect a little bit more this week. And once you've done that, what's one small pause you could build in before reacting next time? And really practice that, whether it's with your lovely AI tool or a friend over a coffee chat or someone in your co-working space. Maybe it's a trusted neighbor friend who's also an entrepreneur and understands the struggles. Think about that.
You don't need to eliminate stress to be a great leader. You need the ability to lead through it. Emotional regulation is what turns awareness into maturity. Whether you're growing your visibility through Pinterest marketing or streamlining your podcast operations and team management, we help you build systems that work for you, not against you. As always, all of our information is going to be in our show notes. Until next time.
You can now follow us on LinkedIn at Entrepreneur Encounter.
Thanks for spending time with us today. If something in this episode gave you a fresh perspective, share it with a friend or send us a DM. We love hearing how these conversations land with you.
And if you're curious about how soft skills can support your next season of growth, we each have more resources to share.
You can find Dana on Instagram at danas.desk.nc for Pinterest strategy and intentional marketing.
And Sarah at URemberts for team development, business leadership, and podcast support.
Until next time, keep leading with purpose
and growing with intention.